Now to the race for the North Carolina congressional seat previously held by the president's current chief of staff, Mark Meadows. Last month, we had on the show Madison Cawthorn, the 24-year-old who handily defeated the Trump-backed candidate in the Republican primary. He now will face the Democratic candidate, retired United States Air Force Colonel Moe Davis, who joins us now. Colonel Davis, thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it. Tell us why you ought to be next to fill that seat in North Carolina.
Well, it kind of goes back to what Joe Biden was just talking about. I think folks are worn out after 3.5 years of chaos, and they want some maturity and experience and a steady hand at the wheel. And I think that's what I offer. I come into this race with 25 years of military service. I'm a disabled veteran that uses our VA hospital here in Asheville. I worked for Congress. I was a law professor. I've been a judge. So I think they want somebody that can hit the ground on day one and work for Western North Carolina and fight for them rather than defend a president full time.
So, Colonel Joe Scarborough here. So you're obviously running against an opponent who has a very compelling life story. His family's been in the area for 8 generations. He's overcome great obstacles in his life. If he's elected, he'll be the youngest person ever elected to Congress. There's a lot there, right? That a lot of politicians would love to have. What are you trying to tell voters in your district to stay focused on in this campaign?
Well, Joe, I think what they want here is somebody that's going to work for them. I mean, Mark Meadows kept talking about the great Trump economy. It may have been great for Madison Avenue and Madison Cawthorn, but for Madison County, it wasn't so great. So the issues that are impacting folks here are we have a high rate of poverty. Every county in the district, the uninsured rate's above the national average. Broadband access is less than 50% in many of our counties. So I think folks, they don't want the dog whistle issues. And Mr. Cawthorn talks about his 3 things are his love for Trump, love for guns, and his anti-abortion stance. And I think folks want to talk about what's impacting them today and their kids' future tomorrow. And that's what I'm focused on. So again, he talks about, he wants to balance the budget by repealing welfare because welfare encourages women, particularly minority women, to stay single and stay home and have babies to get bigger checks. That's not a new, fresh voice. I mean, that's more Strom Thurmond than it is leaning into the future. And I think we need to embrace the future and move North Carolina forward.
How's North Carolina doing with the coronavirus? Obviously, Donald Trump yanked the Republican National Convention out of your state. Now it's trying to have it in Florida. He may not be able to have it there either. But how's North Carolina doing in the fight against the coronavirus? And what do you tell voters when they ask you whether kids should be able to go back to school this fall in your district?
Yeah, I think Governor Cooper is getting good marks for being prudent and reasonable. I know he caught some flack from folks for the convention moving out, but unfortunately our numbers here, like many places, they continue to go up, not down. And I think the folks here are all for reopening schools, but as soon as it's prudent and safe to do it. So this area in particular, Western North Carolina, we're heavily dependent on tourism, so it's had a huge impact on our economy. But, we can help folks restore their livelihood. We can't help them restore their lives. So it's having a big impact on campaigning. My opponent, you may have seen, he was at Trump Hotel the other night, a big crowd, no mask, hugging each other. I'm trying to be responsible. So it is having an impact, but we're not going to put lives at risk to try to win an election.
Colonel Davis, we got another devastating national number just a few minutes ago, 1.4 million new unemployment claims in this country. Obviously, that's hitting North Carolina. Obviously, it's hitting your district as well. What comfort do you give to voters in what would be your district that the economy will recover, that their jobs will come back?
Yeah, Willie, as I said, the poverty rate in this district was above average before COVID-19 hit. And folks are concerned about their jobs or concerned about health care. I mean, my opponent, his plan for health care is to have more insurance companies, and that doesn't help when you've lost your job. So North Carolina is #2 in solar energy production, so I'd like to see us become the epicenter for alternative energy. And I want to expand and extend the federal tax credits, and those are good jobs, and bring them here to Western North Carolina and help lift us out of poverty and focus on those counties where we have a high unemployment rate and a high poverty rate. And I'm convinced we've got better days ahead. We just have They'll have to have the will to do it. We've got to row together in the same direction for the common good for a change.
And by the way, for people who maybe have heard of Colonel Davis before, but you can't quite place him, he made national headlines back in 2007 when he was a prosecutor against terrorists, suspected terrorists at Gitmo, but refused to use any evidence against those defendants that he considered to be acquired through torture. So he also stood up to the Obama administration on issues of free speech. So you've heard of him before. We've introduced him to you, and hopefully we can have you back with us again, Colonel Davis, as well as your opponent. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, and good luck.
Thanks,
and stay
Colonel.
safe out on the trail.
Hey, same to you.
That does it for us this morning. All right, thank you. Stephanie Rule picks up the coverage.